Curiosity and betterment are such basic components of our nature that we are nearly oblivious to their presence in our lives. Consider how much of our time we spend seeking and consuming information, whether it's scrolling through Instagram, listening to music, or watching videos. Our quenchless desire for information drives as much at the global market as it does on a micro scale. The driving force that shapes almost every aspect of the future of civilization is technology, and this has always been the case, from the stone to the wheel to the internet. Interconnecting knowledge and sensory information is in abundance for human beings. It's an intriguing thought when you realize that for almost all of human history, the lives of our ancestors did not differ greatly from their previous generation. The human species is about 200,000 years old, and for the majority of that time, humans were hunters and gatherers, even after the development of civilization. After the invention of agriculture, the lives of ordinary people have remained largely comparable to people living thousands of years later. With the developments of technologies during the Industrial Revolution, civilization rapidly progressed, and in a span of only 260 years, technology has transformed our lives at an exponential rate. Technologies that have arguably influenced graphic design the most would be the Gutenberg press or the Macintosh, but the fundamentals of typography have remained relatively the same since the ancient Greeks, and modern communication using type, image, and shape, which was formalized as the international style, has remained comparably the same for over 100 years. But I believe there will be a fourth dimension to modern communication in the future, a metaphysical one. Transhumanism is the overarching word to describe the advancements in technology to improve the human condition, whether that's physiologically or cognitively. The aim for 6.3 was to explore mediums of graphic design that incorporate technologies that I believe are going to be used throughout graphic design and in society in the future. I've researched and incorporated these technologies into ongoing projects, such as the use of augmented reality for a brand campaign for Red Bull, and generative processes using AI for an LED screen for Threadneedle on Park Row. The aim for the Red Bull project was to create a balanced contrast between Red Bull's pre-existing persona and their already existing brand system. I wanted to create a decaffeinated Red Bull that relaxes the body and mind, which would create a duality between pre-existing products and their already existing brand system. To maintain a realistic scenario, I opted to maintain a similar campaign strategy whilst incorporating emerging technologies. By sponsoring activities and events, Rebel would host a series of free yoga sessions to encourage people to participate in yoga across the UK. This would be called Find Your Balance. The outputs for the campaign would be through the internet and in print. I opted to use augmented reality via an Instagram filter using Spark AR Studio that would project the can on top of the event poster, adding further context and interaction with the brand for the consumer, creating a considerably more engaging experience with that technology than if you were to just look at static pixels through a screen. The boundaries that separate the digital and physical are slowly being taken away from us, allowing us to connect with technology on a greater level, but also allowing technology to have a greater influence on us. Most science fiction movies depict futuristic human lifestyles with technologies that are almost transcendent. Perhaps one of the first technologies to mimic such scenarios, provocative of feeling as though you're living in the future, will be the use of XR, or extended reality. So what actually is extended reality, and what will it do? We first need to learn what constitutes XR. XR is the name to encompass a collection of different realities: virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. First, we must look at VR, virtual reality. This is the use of computer technology to create simulated experiences that can be similar to or completely different to the real world. Standard virtual reality systems use VR headsets or multi-projected environments to essentially mask the sensory organs and to generate realistic visual and auditory experiences. Standard virtual reality systems use VR headsets or multi-projected environments to essentially mask the sensory organs and to generate realistic visual and auditory experiences. The VR headset, with its user interface, offers you an experience where you can immerse yourself in any 3D environment, instead of just watching on a conventional 2D computer screen. Some earlier prototypes of virtual experiences predate even digital computing. Morton Helling wrote in the 1950s of an experience theatre that could encompass all of the senses in an effective manner, drawing the viewer closer into on-screen activity. In 1962, he built a prototype of his vision called Sensorama, along with 5 short films to be displayed in it while engaging multiple senses such as sight, sound, smell, and touch. At the moment, gaming is the major industry propelling VR forward, but there are other fields beginning to incorporate virtual reality, such as education, medical training, healthcare in general, and the military. In contrast to virtual reality, AR or augmented reality is an interactive experience of a real-world environment where the objects that exist in the real world are enhanced by computer-generated perceptual information. AR can be defined as a system that fulfills 3 basic features: a combination of real and virtual world, a real-time interaction and accurate 3D registration of virtual objects and real objects. MR, or mixed reality, is the merging of real and virtual worlds to produce new environments and visualizations. MR does not exclusively take place in either the physical or virtual world, but rather a hybrid of the two. MR is similar to augmented reality, but there is a key difference. MR allows for interaction and manipulation of both the physical and virtual environments, whereas in AR, the real world remains central to experience and is enhanced by virtual details. In February 2019, Microsoft released their new pair of mixed reality smart glasses called the HoloLens 2. In their showcase, they demonstrated their MR smart glasses. In this, they showed us the possibilities of XR and how cutting edge it actually is. Digital and physical media really are about to coalesce, and our designed world will be even more designed. Design studios are also preparing for these technologies to be incorporated by clients, such as Cope Studios' augmented reality experiments, which were documented on Instagram, or Airchord's volumetric projection demo with real-time viewport tracking using Unreal Engine and Vive trackers. The 3 main realities that compose extended reality are fragmented, and for humans to interact with technology on a deeper level, these 3 realities need to merge. That's why there needs to be an improvement of this technology, and someone needs to come up with an XR device that encompasses all 3 realities instead of having a different device for each realm. A VR headset, an AR compatible device, and a mixed reality headset. In order to incorporate XR into the design process, I had to develop skills in the use of 3D software, in my case Blender, from modeling, lighting, rendering, and animation. I took inspiration from the Apple Store, producing virtual rooms which displayed my work, and it developed into a virtual gallery. I was inspired by the NFT artist Christopher Grommer, based in Berlin, whose work currently focuses on light refraction through glass materials. This led to researching this process and developing my own practice in this area. I also explored different types of typography in 3D environments and physics simulations such as cloth simulations. Transferable skills from Adobe Illustrator and After Effects sped up the learning process considerably, and watching YouTube tutorials allowed me to achieve my desired outcomes quicker, considering having to also learn the new system I/O. Another technology I've been focusing on in my studio practice is artificial intelligence, with generative adversarial networks in particular, or GANs for short. This technology is an unsupervised learning task in machine learning that involves discovering and learning the regularities or paths in input data from a given dataset. The neural network is able to find vectors that define the construct of something and then generate meaningful data based on these assumptions from the vectors. To put it simply, this network is able to create new data based on the dataset it was trained on. This is essentially digital imagination. For example, in ArtBreeder's case, images are input into the GAN and new images are generated with characteristics similar of the original images chosen. ArtBreeder was created by Joel Simon, a multidisciplinary artist combining computer science and art. The ArtBreeder software allows the end user to create new complex form and color in a matter of seconds. This could be considered to be the roots of another potential Gutenberg revolution for generating imagery. This software is amazing, not only for that, but also for generating multiple variations from a particular input, allowing for it to be used for idea generation, as random outputs create new aesthetics. GANs can be used not only to create imagery, but practically any type of condition the developers give it. GANs are essentially a software that could create new software. I used ArtBreeder to train a neural network on examples of imagery from scientific studies such as iridescence in nature, but also high-speed microscope images from neuron structures and cells, following watching a keynote from Neuralink. And it felt appropriate to use for the Park Road project because Threadneedle is a global investment company and they gave us buzzwords like global world in motion or environment, connectivity. A global investment company is all about connectivity and diversity, but also communication across a global market. And that's why it felt appropriate to use in the Park Row project. Following all of these technologies discussed, what does this actually mean for the future? If this technology keeps developing at its current rate, the fundamentals of GANs will be applied to almost everything, alongside the possibilities to interact with said outputs using MR. With the collective knowledge of Google and the advancements of quantum computing, humans could see a technological singularity in which we enter the post-human era. As software engineers code and everyone uploads, downloads, and interacts with the web, the summation of these actions contribute to the development and expansion of a collective planetary knowledge which could have thoughts of its own. This intelligence could shift authority towards technology, which is already observed in software such as Google Maps, and as a result, dwarfs us as we did to cells. This is where we become part of a multi-organism human network. The implications of this is completely down to how we use the software and how it is designed. Transhumanism is going to take society and design into the next stage of modern communication, where we'll be able to touch and shake hands with technology, where we coalesce into transhumans and use this power to sustain life and morality. Marshall McLuhan: we shape our tools and our tools shape us.